Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 84 of the Single Malt Strategy podcast. I'm the historical gamer, but you can call me Matt. In today's podcast, we are going to be changing our format up just a little bit. That's because today's episode is going to be focusing on one of the most anticipated games of all of ours for 2024, and rather than spend an hour talking about all the different things we've been playing, we really just wanted to jump into the topic. That means, of course, we're going to be talking about the new game being developed by Slavic Magic, published by Hooded Horse, that game being Manor Lords, a strategy and city builder, which takes place in the medieval era in Europe. Joining me for this episode is my trusty co-host, Tortuga Power. How are you doing today, Tortuga?
I'm doing great, considering we're talking about Hooded Horse, which is, I'm sure, a shock for everyone. My favorite publisher right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing some great things, but in addition to Tortuga, we've also got Wolfpack 345 once again. How you doing, Wolf?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the pod once more.
And we also have, last but not least, Finnish Jager. How you doing, Finnish?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me around, Matt.
You're welcome. Anyway, I guess we're just gonna jump right in, right? Who wants to give the elevator pitch of what this is?
I think Tortuga's probably the best one to do that, but it's kind of like a medieval city builder with combat. It's like Ostriv, but a little more graphical fidelity, I'd say.
Yeah, Ostriv, or I would say Banished, is probably the forefather of all of these. Is it forefather, foresister?
What about Age of Empires 2?
It is a game. You think it's related to this?
He's just asking.
Age of Empires 2. It's a great game. I don't think it's the same. Yeah, but I mean, we can explain why so that people understand why I make that statement. So Age of Empires 2 is a lot more about the focus is combat, but the focus of this game is really building a beautiful city. And I think a lot of attention has been paid so that you can build winding roads. I mean, it looks really authentic. If I was to close my eyes and imagine a medieval village, which is probably just what Hollywood has placed in my brain, but whatever that image is the kind of thing I can build when I'm in Manor Lords.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the basis for my entire village is essentially Skyrim. All my villages just look like little villages straight out of Skyrim. That's my my knowledge of medieval villages.
I'm waiting for someone to mod dragons into this thing so you can just destroy villages with that, if that's even possible. But taking a step back, so this is, as we said, it's a city builder, takes place in medieval Europe, I assume. You start off, as you do with most city builders, with a very small number of resources, a small population. You're the lord of this section of the map, which is actually, there's like multiple different sections that you kind of need to move into and explore and sort of exploit. And depending on the scenario that you've sort of chosen or the rules that you've chosen, you might have other claims that are, in existent on the map as well, from like an illegitimate baron is how the game writes it up. But effectively, the goal is to build a big city or build big town in medieval periods, and you've got to deal with a lot of challenges to doing that. The basis of the game seems to be families. Is that right, Tortuga?
As in, a house is for a family, right? Even like a workforce.
Well, just like how you play. What's the economic? You explain how that works.
Yeah, I would say that that's a good way of saying it, that the family is the basic unit of production, the basic unit that moves to a production zone, that lives in a house. So when you assign a working unit to like your lumber yard or your tree cutting place, the whole family is going to do that. And that may not mean that all of them are working there. One of them might still be at home picking up food from the market or whatever. But yeah, you're assigning a family.
No, I think that's fair. Like, your population is your resource, but to extend that, like, you have a little lodge to go pick berries, and the entire family just works in that lodge. But you do have an entire population that is separate. And there are also different levels of families, which I must say I am not entirely sure what that all entails. Have you looked into that much? Because there's like level 1, 2, and 3 families.
I know Tortuga warned me away from artisans, which I think are those level 2.
Well, yeah, we're getting into a little bit of the details, but I guess this just goes to show you how authentic. I think the game is really, it's built on some backbone of trying to be a very realistic medieval city builder. And it's something that, like, right up front, I want to say, I think it nails. I would give this game like a 10 out of 10 for being able to give me at least the feel of a realistic medieval town or village. And one of the things it does with that is we are used to nowadays, like the industry is separated from your house, but back then it wasn't. So what you can do is after your buildings advance a little bit, your town's a little bigger, you can assign an advanced feature to some of those buildings, such as you could make a house into the blacksmith's dwelling. And that converts the entire family there to just doing blacksmith work. And that means that they are no longer eligible for other workforce items. They're only going to be blacksmiths. And that can be a real problem, by the way. That's why I warned you away, is because I kind of didn't really know what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, I want a blacksmith. I want more weapons. But I found myself very quickly, I had no workers to get iron, to give them iron to make weapons with. You can run into a problem. You have to be pretty diligent about picking those like specialized jobs, because they still need all of the basic resource gathering that leads up to that. And if you can't supply that, it all just kind of falls apart.
That was one of the things that kind of stood out to me when I was watching some other folks playing this game today on Twitch as we're recording this as the embargo is lifted. One of the things that I kind of felt, Hooded Horse sent out kind of a pamphlet that gave you an overview of how to, effectively how to play, how to get through your first year, effectively a manual. And it was clear to me that like some folks had not read that, because I think one of the things is easy to fall into in this game. You only start, at least with the current setup. Maybe there'll be more options at the release, but you only start with 5 families when you set up your map. And so what that means is you can only have 5 people dedicated to any one task, any one occupation. And so the way the game works is, you build a farm. You probably want to dedicate someone to do that, so the work is actually done. You build a woodcutter's, lodge, or a firewood cutter's lodge. You have to assign at least one family to like each of those to get them to run. So you only start with 5 families, and you don't have a lot of people to go around at the start. So it's kind of a slow starting game. Like I would say, don't rush it. Take your time. Make sure that you have someone dedicated to getting enough food for your families. Make sure you have someone dedicated to getting enough firewood for your families, because those are kind of the 2 main resources at the beginning is, well, I guess shelter, food, and firewood. You need to have homes, otherwise people will be mad. You need to have food, otherwise people will starve. And you need to have firewood, because in the winter, this is a seasonal-based game, and if you don't have firewood when it comes to the winter, your folks can freeze and die. But more people won't come to your village unless you've got an approval rating above 50%, and you won't have an approval rating above 50% unless everybody has a home. So I guess where I'm going with is it's really easy to overbuild if you're not mindful of where you're assigning folks, right? Like you have to make sure that you're collecting wood and food, and you have to make sure that you're building homes. And you probably also want like some storage so that your food isn't just sitting out exposed to the elements, because that can destroy that as well. I think one of the things that I struggled with was I'm used to games like Tropico, where basically your island just gets flooded with immigrants to your land real quick, and workforce is not really a problem early on in the game. If you mess things up, people will leave, people will die, people will be upset, and then you can have problems. But with this, I think it sort of pays to not be overly aggressive in expanding your town right off the bat, because, again, you only have 5 families to go around, and if you assign all of your families to doing a specific job, well, you need to have some unassigned families, because the unassigned families are the ones who drag resources around for you. So if you build a house, you actually have to have the wood taken from your storage area brought to the house, otherwise the house won't be built. Someone has to do that. The house has to be built. If you assign everybody to a job, there's no one left for construction. So I do think it's one of those things where it pays to be patient in this game in a way that I don't think is necessarily true in a lot of other city builders.
Yeah, I would follow that up with just, first of all, it's true. The way what you're saying, you have to be a bit patient. It is gameplay settings related. If you go in with the default settings, this is the case. If for people who are new to the game, they might consider engaging like the relaxing, quote unquote, relaxing setting. You can actually customize anything. You don't have to choose one setting. You can go to each one by yourself. I think there's a setting for how many people come, whether it's approval based or not. There's an option to turn that off so that people will just move into your town, even if you don't have high approval. You can also ask for more starting resources. So there's a lot of things you can tweak to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, I think that this is actually the biggest challenge of the game as you grow, and it's related to what I was just saying about artisans. The fact that I had made artisans took away from my worker pool, and it's really about this worker pool balance. You don't want to overgrow. If you have 10 families and you build a farm, and you need that, like, at the point when you're plowing the field, you need like 3 families. So you're going to have to take people off something else. But if you're taking them off berries, do you have enough food to get through until the crop arrives? I think that that's very interesting, but it could also be very frustrating, especially when you're just learning the game.
Well, I think another part that's really interesting, like family management, I think you've all made clear is a very important thing, but rotating your families through different seasons. Like, you don't need multiple families in the farmhouse plowing fields and stuff, in the winter, for example. So it is cool managing your families and having them do different things in different times of the year to get them, I guess, maximize your resources at different times when you really need them. The stockpile for winter or whatnot, because winter obviously is a real killer. Like THD said, you need firewood, but also food, because it's harder to get food in winter as well. But yeah, the family management is a pretty cool aspect of it.
So I haven't used farms a whole lot. I've mostly, because my towns are still generally small, so I rely more on collecting berries or hunting wildlife. I know farms don't grow in the winter. Do you get more than one crop out of farms, or is it just like, because what I remember reading was you like plant in the spring, it grows in the summer, and you harvest in the fall. So is it just one crop per year?
Per field, yeah.
And so it's like a lot of resources all at once, but only all at once, sort of at the end of
Yeah, that's how it is. So it does require some planning. I mean, one good thing about the game, or I don't know, maybe it's something they'll change later, but it's just an option that I would prefer to stay this way, is that there's no food decay. Your granary basically is like a perfect freezer. So that's a good thing, I think. You don't have to worry about it. If you collect like 500 berries, which I've done, you don't have to worry about those decaying. They just sit there. That
would be a pretty cool hardcore option, like food rotting and stuff.
I think they may even add it later, and I'll debate about whether I want to turn it off or not. I'll probably leave it on, but I hate those kind of things when you're just losing something you've already spent all your effort to gather.
Yeah, I guess like I'm not a big city builder player, so the big city builder that I played a ton of was like Pharaoh and Caesar. And I guess the only way this is similar is that it has like your building and then also combat as well. And the combat reminds me quite a bit of Caesar 3.
Oh yeah, I think it's a little better than that. That's kind of slap in the face.
It's definitely better, but you have like your little rally points and you send them off or whatnot. I don't know. It was just my first thought.
Combat was it was better than I expected.
But I'm not a big city builder guy.
I think that's a good thing we should actually do, though. We should probably talk about our own backgrounds, because city building stuff, I mean, I bring it up a lot. It is something that I like to follow and I like to do, play some city builders. But like, Matt, how much city building stuff have you done?
I wouldn't say I'm a big city builder. Like, I haven't played a lot of stuff recently. I haven't played City Skyline, which I feel like is kind of the biggest modern city builder out there. Cities 2 debacle aside, my main background in the city builders is the Tropico series, which I played basically 1 through 4 quite extensively.
4 was the best.
Well, I like the first one the most, but I would agree that 4 is the best game. Like, if you're trying to objectively say what's the best game, but 1 has a nostalgia factor for me that the others don't.
Well, yeah, I should clarify that I think that 4 is actually the best one, even though 5 and 6 have come along. I think I still like 4 the best.
Well, they start getting different with, like, 5 is when they introduced the eras, right? Where it was like, you start in colonial times, and then you proceed to, like, the Cold War era or something like that, and then you proceed to, like, modern times, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I played it, but I don't remember.
And 2 was weird, because it was like, hey, you're basically like a pirate's secret hideout. But basically, Tropico was sort of the one I played the most. I played a lot of SimCity, like, 2000, way back in the day. A little bit of SimTown, and Caesar 3. I played a lot of Caesar 3, which was, I would say like Tropico and Caesar 3 are the ones that I've played the most of. And then kind of sort of related, but not really a city builder, Railroad Tycoon 2.
Oh, heck yeah.
Has city builder elements, I think. Because like towns grow based on how you connect them in Railroad Tycoon 2. So there's elements of city building there.
I don't know if you want to talk about your city building background and I'll finish.
I don't really have anything more to add. I played all these games that you guys have talked about.
Like, how focused on that as a genre? Do you like those games? Do you seek them out, or not really?
I do seek them out. I played a lot of City Skylines, but I've not played any City Skylines 2. I guess my main genre now is definitely like the Civilization genre series. Civilization started with Civilization 3. That's what I look for in a game. Like, I like those kind of nation building. And you're kind of building cities, but in a different way. So I like just like the economic development. So that's what I look for.
There's like a lot of city builders that I've been interested in, like the Workers and Resources. That's the Soviet town city builder. Like that one sounds really interesting, but looks so in depth and it looks like there's so much going on that I feel like I'd have to put a lot of time to learn it. And Manor Lords is, I'd say, pretty accessible for a city builder. I don't know how you all feel about the accessibility of the game, but it's like one of those games that's kind of pretty easy to pick up.
That's good to hear.
Like I just picked up and started going and I was like, yeah, I get it. I understand what's going on more or less. Sure, there's like the mechanics are easy to learn, but pretty deep and pretty detailed, depending on how much detail you actually want to get from them.
Oh, Wolf, did you play Ostriv?
No, I've seen Ostriv. I actually might have played it a little bit for only a couple of hours though, but that game's pretty detailed.
That one's hardcore.
Another example of like Workers and Resources-esque like level of detail where it's like, man, I would love to do this, but I don't know if I have the time to really learn all of these various mechanics.
Yeah, I tried, by the way. Workers and Resources, you hit the nail on the head. It's so complicated. Oh my gosh, it's awesome, but the supply, it's basically a production chain management and city builder merged with nothing taken out, like the complexity of both mashed together, which makes the game almost unapproachable, like almost impossible to get into.
Right.
It's a great game. I mean, I've played it a little bit myself, but I know there's so much to learn and so much time it would take for me to get there that I guess I'd rather watch people play it than actually play it myself.
Yeah, and that's like a big thing. Like I've watched people play it and I'm like, wow, this is really darn cool, but yeah, that learning curve is just pretty intimidating.
And you mentioned Ostriv, and I would actually say that's a really good comparison with Manor Lords. So I would say that we've been talking about a lot of different games, and I would qualify Manor Lords as dissimilar, not similar to almost all the ones we've talked about, except for a little niche genre I would call colony builders or colony management games, which is, in my head, it was started by Banished. So Banished, Ostriv, these kind of games like that. Because the city skylines to me is just very different, and I can't really put a finger on why that is, because mechanically they seem pretty similar. I don't know, maybe it's more about, well, I can't put a finger on it, like I said, but for me the feeling of like starting from this very small like outpost in the wilderness and like gathering your resources like that, it's something a little bit different than starting like a city, even though, I mean, and residential zoning, and maybe they're the same. I don't know, I'll have to think about this.
I can see how they're quite a bit different. Like it's scale wise. I mean, you're starting with families of like, how many families do you start out with in Manor Lords? 5?
Yeah, good point. So it's scale-wise, it's different. Yeah, in SimCity, you're going to end up with thousands of people, and at the end game of this, you're going to have like maybe 200.
Right, and like transportation's a huge deal in more modern Sims as well, and more focus on efficiency. And I guess you want to be efficient in Manor Lords as well, but...
Kind of, but actually, I feel like because like the grid system is almost like verboten, right? They don't want you to use a grid system. Now, I still do, because I can't get that out of my head. But I feel like this game heavily emphasizes aesthetics, look and feel.
Right.
And of course, to do that, they have to minimize to a degree, at least, or reduce the impact of efficiency. Because a curved road, it looks better. It is not going to be traveled as quickly. So in order to encourage people to use curved roads, they have to make it so the game functions well with that inefficiency.
Right.
One thing I want from more city builder games is where you can start with a small town or a village or even a larger city that's already built, and then try to build off of that and fix it. I like starting from scratch, but I want the challenge and the different kind of gameplay with starting with something already. Like, especially like you have like a modern city, fix their infrastructure, fix their transportation network, build some subway systems and stuff like that, and try to fix what's already there.
Instead of always building from scratch.
Yeah, instead of always building from scratch, exactly. Yeah, I'd like it a little different challenge in that regard.
They definitely have that in the oldest SimCity titles. I remember SimCity had that, SimCity 2000 or 2 or whatever, 2000 I think, and then SimCity 3000. But basically SimCity 1, 2, and 3 had those scenarios where it was like, okay, here's Detroit. It has a problem with crime.
Picking on Detroit.
It's from the real game.
First thing that comes to his mind, he's like, wow, what's a city with crime?
It's
Detroit.
in the game.
Let's crap all over Finish's hometown.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're doxing him. Gosh,
Yeah.
thank God he's no longer living on 123 Fairy Lane.
Fairy Lane.
Yeah, but which gang did you belong to?
The one that Eminem was in. We were pretty tight, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you were going to say something a little bit ago. I don't know if you want to jump back in.
I don't even remember.
The wheels have come off very early. It's only a 29-minute mark.
He's blaming Detroit for it, too.
What I was trying to remember is I think Caesar 3 had some where you like picked up a city that was like already somewhat created. I don't know if it was like fix a broken city, but I think that had elements of that as well.
Yeah, I think as you got later on in the campaign, maybe.
Yeah.
But I would say that works for city builders. I don't know if it works for colony management games like this one. I don't know if Ostriv, it makes sense that you load into something which is already formed and they say, oh, by the way, they're about to all starve to death, fix it. I mean, I don't actually, when I say it, I guess it could be interesting.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool.
I think as someone living in America where all the cities like desperately need infrastructure, it's interesting from that concept. Because it's like I think a lot of times when you see like the industrializing of a country, it's like, oh, well, we don't have anything here, so let's build it up out of nothing. That always tends to seem less daunting. Even at like Total War games, my favorite Total War games are the ones where you already have an established empire and you're trying to hold it together. So like Total War Rome Barbarians Invasion or Attila.
Get out of here. He had to bring it up.
I knew it was coming.
Those are my favorite of that type of game too. So I find that appealing in a way that building from scratch is not.
No, I can see the appeal to that.
But why don't we take a step back? Like, so we talked about families. I guess, if you were to say, because one thing I don't have as good of a grasp on at this point is the economy as it gets more complex, right? So like you start off with a basically an empty space, right? You've got like a couple of homeless tents. You've got some folks, and you got a small amount of resources to start with. We kind of talked about you need to get food and you need to get timber so you can survive through the winter. After that, because I know Tortuga, you were having issues with bandits, I think it was, in one of your towns the other night. Like, let's talk a little bit more about the game as you get a little bit more advanced. Once you've set up your town, you've got enough food to survive, you've got enough firewood to survive, and your folks have basic structures. What do you do?
I think that one of the things that they're definitely trying to bring in more, I'm not sure how fully fleshed out it is, but it's already interesting as is. I think it'll be improved though. Let me just say that. You start on a map which actually has like 9 regions or, X number of regions, around 10 to 15. And there's a little bit of a Total War type mechanic where you go and you actually conquer those different regions. And then you get to use their resources. So, I mean, in the mid game, you might be raided by bandits or raiders, and you're going to want to form a militia. So if by that point you should have already set up your blacksmith and you should have a production of weapons. Even if you don't, by the way, you can get away with there's a trading hut, so you can sell off your planks if you happen to have 500 of them. Make enough money to buy some weapons directly. You can also just use your personal wealth. I mean, this is another mechanics. I mean, we're getting down into the weeds here, but technically, there's 2 sources of money. There's your town's money, and then your actual lord's money. Most of the things you're going to want to do are with your manor's money. But if you want to hire mercenaries, it has to be with your personal lord's money. And there's a way to kind of move one to the other through taxes. You can tax the people, and then Okay, so what happens is as you go up into higher housing tiers, from level 1 to level 2, you'll start making regional money. But if you have a tax office, then part of that will be collected as your lord's money. Okay, sorry, we're getting into the weeds. But had to explain that because you might want to buy mercenaries instead of actually assembling your army yourself. And if you want to buy mercenaries, you need personal money. Okay, so mid-game, I think...
So I know I didn't have any personal money, but I wanted a second ox because having one felt like a bottleneck to getting anything built.
Huge bottleneck.
So I imported a second ox. I don't even remember how I did it. I didn't have a trading hub or anything like that. I just went into a menu somewhere and bought another ox.
Yeah, you can buy oxes at the hitching post and such. So you have a hitching post and you can buy oxes and horses and such through there. And that uses the town money, if I believe, the regional wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the total wealth of all of your citizens, which made me feel real great. It's like, hey, everybody, we're going to use your money to buy something that I tell you what we're going to buy.
Oh, it's for the betterment of the entire community, you see.
For the greater good,
That's what happens when you're a lord
I guess.
Yeah, really.
with a manor.
With the manor. God, that's the name of the game!
I still got people like commenting on my YouTube video about how we try to describe Manor Lords. It's pretty funny. Tortuga. Well, it's medieval era, so you have a manor. And Wolfpack said, and you get to be a lord. And then TSG said, roll credits.
Hey, that's kind of what we just did.
Comedic geniuses.
Oh man, I need to grab that. I need to clip that. That's funny.
Oh, one thing I this is just a random comment that I don't want to sidetrack us too much. I love the ability to walk around your manor.
I agree.
There's this third person view where you go from the traditional top down scroll in, scroll out with your mouse wheel of your city into like a, hey, here's your lord represented on the map, and now you can walk around at like ground level. That is really cool, and I do think, you already mentioned they put a lot of effort into the aesthetics, Tortuga. This game is beautiful. For a game that's made by
One person.
what, I think it started off as like a one-person job. Like this, they put a lot of effort into making this game look good, and it does. I saw some comments in another Discord I was in where people were just basically in awe about like probably something folks don't normally think about, but a lot of these kind of games, the edge of the map looks like trash, right? Like it's like there's no good horizon view in games like this, but the horizons in this game look brilliant as well. Like it looks real, like you're looking off into something in the distance rather than some like fogged over abomination, which is what I think most games like this have.
Yeah, can I jump in and just say that not only is like, does it look beautiful, but the weather is actually a weather system. You can see clouds off in the distance, and then they approach, and then it's raining in your town, which is crazy. Like you could, like as a third person view, you can see the clouds coming and like, oh, it's going to be rain. And then it's rain.
I did not know that. That is actually really cool.
I'm not sure what impact it has because, these peasants will work in the mud. Doesn't matter. Rain or shine.
Well, no, but they go inside and stuff. Like some of them will go inside whenever it starts raining, right?
Well, not in my town.
Oh, well, maybe I'm just crazy. I thought they were.
I play from like 10 mile up viewpoint. So I manage everything. I don't always look at I don't stop and smell the roses.
It makes them even more impressive that it's this detailed when, like you said, a lot of people will be playing from a very high up point of view like you do.
That's why it's really a labor of love, right? I feel like a game that is not, it is just done to be sold or something like that, they would cut corners here. It's very inefficient. Like it's probably a waste of production time that they put those little touches of love in there, but it's something that we appreciate. So, good on them for doing it.
Well, and like another thing that I think is absolutely brilliant is like when you have seasons change and the landscape changes with it, especially when you get into the fall and you see the trees change colors.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sucker because I'm used to like the Midwest is a big place where people go watch the colors, if you will, like up in Door County. But like I love that. They look good. It's not just like a uniform. Everything's whatever. It looks legit. I think it looks really appealing. I love when you cut a tree down. You've got that great sound effect of the tree coming down, and it looks like a tree coming down. Like I love the way the game has you interact with the map itself from a nature point of view, because it just feels real and feels lived in. You've got the logging camps and the tree lines get pushed back, and you kind of have to manage that. You also have to manage, if you've got resources like wildlife, if you put things that are encroaching on where the wildlife would be, they will migrate. You may push a herd out of a wood, because you built things too close to it, or because your log camps, interfered with that. So yeah, I mean, I think it does a good job of that, and sort of the finite nature of resources, right? A lot of games like this, it'll be like, oh, you've got an iron mine. You put your iron mine down, and it's just going to mine iron, for forever. Actually, that's one thing I liked about Tropico was the landscape would change based on how long the mine had been there and how much had been extracted. And that's the same thing here, where you only have a certain amount of resources, unless you have a rich deposit, by the way, where if you have a rich deposit, there is an unlock you can do where you'll open up like a deep mine, which I believe has infinite resources. But most resources will be exhausted after a period of time as well. So I just really appreciate the way that sort of the player and the city interacts with the map around it, and how it evolves over the course of a game.
And you can see, by the way, about the resources, that's the way they're trying to like naturally tug you or encourage you to expand from your initial region to other regions. If you don't have a deep mine for both stone, I mean, you can't have a deep mine for stone, clay, and iron. So for one of those, when you run out, you'll need to move to another region. So, I mean, they want you to go and then claim that other region. If you're playing on a map with other players, like their AI, but other people, they may choose to contest you're trying to occupy that new region. That's when you need an army to back up your claim. There's also some other mechanics which are not implemented yet, but I just see them, like King's Favor. I don't know what that is or how they're going to implement that. For now, the only way I know how to claim a territory is to go in there and to defend. If anybody disputes your claim, they do it by sending an opposing army.
The narrative behind this is like the king has sent you to this promising region to build a town, right? And there is a game mode where there's some illegitimate duke who already has claims on two of the regions in this sector. And so the end game of that version is when you claim the territories he claims, he exists off map and sends an army onto the map and fights you. So that's like one game mode. So I'm assuming King's Favor has to do with you also will owe, I know based on like what I've read through it, you'll owe the king essentially tribute. You've got to send money back to the king to, obviously you're his agent here, right? You're building this town, so he's expecting you're going to be paying him, the way a lord would pay his liege in tribute. I would imagine that influences that, and I think you can also use King's Favor for diplomacy and other things like that. It can be leveraged as sort of a resource that can help your kingdom as well, or your town as well, although it's not fully built out. Do you know what smell is, by the way? Is that like a cleanliness type thing?
It's not implemented yet because the tannery should reek to high hell, but it does not smell at all. And I assume it's going to be something like that residential places don't want to live next to a tannery because that's how it is in real life.
Well, it's kind of like Tropico where like you can try and beautify your island, but if you don't, like, as you cut down trees and build mines and whatnot, I know it like people are like, ew, I don't like that, so it's probably something like that.
But have either of you guys engaged in combat yet?
A little bit. I've only fought bandits, unfortunately. So
yeah, that's what I fought too, is bandits. But I have to say, I was surprised at like I feel like, man, knock me off my surprisingly positive viewpoint of this game if it's necessary, but I feel like they nailed it, though. I feel like the combat it's not too deep, but it's like the perfect amount of deep for this game, which is still mostly focused on building up your colony. But it has like cool options for different stances for your unit. I feel like the combat, it looked a little janky the first time I saw it, but actually when I looked at it again, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's basically what Total War looks like, or maybe 10 years ago what it looked like. But
yeah, no, it does look really nice. And like the upgrading of your units is pretty cool. Like you said, you have blacksmiths or people making armor in their little cottages and equipping your troops that way. And I guess not all of your troops will have, the same equipment. It looks good. It feels believable and realistic. So
when you're building a militia unit, do you have to have a full complement to build it?
Nope.
No.
They'll form with whatever you have. And like, I think what's the maximum size is I think 36 for at least the spearmen. I think it's 36 for all of them.
Because I saw 36 and I was like, wait a minute, I've only got like 20 swords or spears or whatever and shields, and I don't even have 36 people yet in my village. How would I form a militia yet? Because the game kind of prods you to be like, hey, you need a militia. And I didn't know if I could still build it or not. But you're saying you can.
Yeah, it's actually really lucrative to, as soon as you have more than 16, I think, 16 is the amount of units the bandit camps usually have. I've been successful against a bandit camp with only 19 spearmen. I'm not sure how many fewer people you can have than that and still win. But the really good news is once you defeat them, you can go take their camp with your soldiers. and it'll provide like 200 money, which is huge. I mean, and you can actually choose where that goes to, by the way. You can choose to take it yourself personally, or it can go to the village. The first time I did it, I sent it to the village, and then that was the way I got like a lot of orchards. I was able to get my blacksmith and all that, because it actually requires regional money to upgrade those houses to have those special add-ons.
Did the people like that you gave them a bunch of money?
No, there was not. I mean, approval-wise, I don't think I remember anything changing. It was just that the town had the ability to spend those resources. But the second time I took the money for personally, I used that to buy mercenaries. And so the second time I went to fight a bandit camp, I didn't even have to raise my guys. I got like this mace group from the mercenaries called Battle Brothers. I like the name of it. They cleaned the floor with the other bandits.
Oh, that's awesome, though. Because the mercenary units do look nice, despite their cost.
Yeah, I don't remember what the cost was. I thought it was only like 80 or something. I thought it was actually pretty doable.
Is it a one-time cost, or is there an upkeep?
Yeah, I don't remember. I assume that there's got to be an upkeep, but I just remember I dismissed them. So there probably was an upkeep.
Well, because there's militia, but then there's also a retinue, right? Which would be like a standing military, I think.
Yeah, there's also a retinue. I haven't used that yet. When you build up your actual manor, I mean, you build up your like castle. All that, unfortunately, I haven't gone that far. The manor is very expensive to build, so it's kind of like...
Yeah, you need a ton of stone and such, which I guess like the initial area when I've played didn't have enough stone to really support it, so I had to start importing it using traders and stuff, which is a whole nother...
We'll talk about that, Wolf, because that's another awesome... I mean, we've already talked about so many great things, but yeah, maybe we should touch on that.
You can set up traders and import different materials. I primarily was exporting materials to make more money, and that contributes to your regional wealth, not your personal wealth. I was in a place that, I was cutting down trees left and right, so I was just exporting a lot of timber and stuff because I had a big surplus of it. But then you can also, like, if you don't have... I don't know, like dyes, for example. You can import dyes or other various things.
Does anybody know what tools are for? This is a little bit weird, but I in the first game I played, the bandits came and they stole all my tools. This was my first self-destruction, was actually because I was trying to get a blacksmith to make tools. That's how the wheels came off the engine, because there's another mechanic where you can have a house with an attachment that's different than just a house. And it ends up working as two houses, basically. It's two families live there.
Yeah, because you can have houses with, like, farms or, like, chicken coops or whatever.
Yeah, there's two different things for the houses. One is that they can have an extension or a production attachment, which can have, like, food, or it can be the blacksmith area. But there's another thing so when you build out your house grid, there's a plus and minus there, which allows you to actually subtract the number of houses. And if you subtract enough houses, you'll have the extension as one part and the normal house. But then next to the normal house, you'll see like a plus house. You can expand that lot to have two houses on it. And two families live there. But they still have to share the one extension. Now, I use this for orchards or stuff that, I don't know, I make large orchards. And I don't know if there's any game mechanic which governs this, but because I see people actually going out into the orchards and into the vegetable farms, I feel like I need two families to work big places, so I use that. But I also accidentally did upgrade not accidentally, I just didn't know. I upgraded one of my houses that had the extended plot, so it was two families, to be the blacksmith. And now I had two families that were artisans, so this subtracted two families from my workforce, which at that point was like 13. So it's a pretty big impact. So that kind of hosed me. So just word to the wise, be careful with artisans. Because I don't know any way other than deleting the house, you can get them back into the normal workforce.
Right.
Anyway, I did that to make tools, but the long and short of that was I don't know what the tools were for anyway. I don't know if I had to do it.
Yeah, just export them, I suppose. I have no idea. I haven't come across anything that really needs tools.
Halberds are so efficient to export, by the way, when you want to talk about trade. I think they make like 50 a halberd, and it's only, I think, 1 iron and 1 plank. So it's a really good
deal. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've been going on all these things. Like, it just shows how many different mechanics there are in this game and how detailed each of them are.
I'm just sad I don't have a manor yet. They should rename the game Manor Lords.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm pretty late in the game. It's just not efficient. I do everything for efficiency.
You both played the demo, right? Because I did not.
I did not.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I wanted to, and I didn't get around to it. But I don't feel like other than a little bit of confusion around the families initially, like I didn't see a lot of things. Seemed fairly straightforward. Like, I guess fields are a little bit weird, right? Like, when you build a field, do you have to build like something to turn the wheat into grain or bread or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, so you need windmills, and then you take that flour, and then you need an oven so people can actually eat it, like make bread and such.
So it really forces that like production line, which is 3 buildings long. By comparison, you have a 1 building long chain to get berries. But, berries aren't going to feed it. Well, if you get a rich deposit for berries, it'll literally take care of your people for like years. That's when I had the 500 berries in my granary. The rich deposits are just insane. But you also have to have a variety of food. There's one way to get to the higher tiers of houses is that they look for more than 1 item of food in the market, and that can be a challenge. So then now you need to get. Or there's bees, you can do the apiary. I mean, this game is crazy.
Well, and it's like, who wants to just eat berries constantly?
I was just thinking of how miserable.
What kind of cruel settlement are you running over there?
Oh, not want to be near their outhouses. My gosh.
Yeah, just got the shits going. What are you complaining about? You got plenty of food. Here's another pound of strawberries or something.
Well, I guess we should talk to the guy who's played the most of this game here, Finnish. How are you feeling? What are you thinking, buddy?
I'm feeling great, My first impressions were I was super impressed with how the game looks. And that's it.
Okay, there we go.
I watched Wolf build some roads, and I thought that was kind of cool. I saw him displace the local deer population by accident. I thought that was kind of funny. And then he built the world's first roundabout, which is basically just going to be a mud pit after it rains. I don't see a future in kind of civil engineering in his upcoming career path, but
whoa,
he's a good submarine captain, so I'll give him that.
Well, I think my little settlement's really on the up and up over here.
It looks nice. It does look nice.
Yeah, I mean, the roundabout was purely aesthetic, and that's what I go for, aesthetics over anything else.
Uh-huh. And that's purely subjective, too.
Okay, every once in a while, my population will be, like, knee-deep in mud, but do I have to deal with that? No. I just get to look at it, and it's beautiful in the spring.
I'm trying to think where you live in this situation because you don't have a manor. So are you just like living in the forest and you come out and like tell people what to do?
Yeah, I have a sod dwelling, kind of like a hobbit. Really far away because I really don't want to be around any of these people. They are very far beneath me.
I thought you were going to say that you've earned their trust and respect because you live with them. And that's how successful your town has become because you're one of the people. Is that too radical for medieval Europe?
Yeah, that's a thought. I'm glad my personal papers are getting around because the propaganda's taking a hold.
I like to think that I live in a treehouse so that the people are literally beneath me.
Yeah, that's good. Oh boy.
You're just the local crazy person who you think you're in charge and you're telling everybody what to do.
Go shouting at them.
No, yeah, this game has like a lot of opportunity for role playing too, and that's something that I hope kind of gets fleshed out. Like if we can customize our little character and
you can customize your shield, your your coat of arms.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It's really good finish. It's as good as Stellaris, I would say. Which I think Stellaris is the one.
I watched Wolf put a snail on his shield.
What?
But no, you guys
just
so you know, like it's not just the in menu option. You can actually import images into your coat of arms,
which is neat in itself.
So is Tortuga, did he do that, and is it a little turtle? Is THG, is yours just a big old 8?
I was gonna do a butcher, but then I was like, that's a little too modern. Coat of arms don't have these crazy red-haired men with.
Yeah, there's not a cleaver inside like a pig carcass or something. What do they do in that town? Oh, they just keep chopping up pork chops,
They're freaks. Yeah, they really love pork chops.
Bacon was invented in that town right there.
This is how I get everybody to respect me, though, because, like, oh, that guy, they must always have food. They must always be living the high life, the prime cuts. I just string them along.
Right.
The prime cuts. Prime cuts and high life.
I want to try to, I've been very high on this game. I think I give this like a 9 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10.
Time to criticize it.
Yeah, I think we got to, though, so this is an early access release.
And this segment will be called Removing the Hood from the Horse.
Whoa. That's good. I like that.
I don't really like that.
That was dumb.
No,
anyway.
You know what? I don't either, because I'm nervous about other people disagreeing with me.
Okay.
As you should be. Get in your place.
No, but seriously, we gotta have. I mean, it's an early access title. That it couldn't be just perfect. It can't be.
Well, I don't. So I do think some of the UI. I think some folks. I've seen folks struggle because they don't really understand how the families work and how getting things assigned works.
Yeah, because they don't know how to read a piece of paper.
They don't read. Yeah.
No, but I also don't think, like, I do think if you just throw this out here and people just jump in and play, I do think, like, the family piece takes a little bit of getting used to. It's just not the difficulty in getting more people to come to your village. Like, I wouldn't have thought, I need to make sure everybody starts out homeless. I wouldn't think I need to make sure every single one of my people has a house before I'll get even a second, a sixth person to show up.
Wait, so you mean to tell me you thought people wanted to come?
You assumed your little homeless camp would attract a population?
It does in most city builders. It does in Tropico. Like,
There is an option to turn that on, too, by the way. That's what I was talking about earlier. You can turn it on.
I'm just saying, like... It seems, I just think there are things there that there's some assumed knowledge in some of these mechanics that, veteran city builder people probably will pick up on them, but I don't know if everybody will.
Okay, that's fair.
So not everyone has common sense, Wolf.
It's not a matter of common sense. It's a matter of assuming. You can't assume everybody who's playing your game is...
But does it really need... Okay, do you really need a city builder to tell you that for people to move into your city... they want to live in a house?
Well, when you put it like that...
You just ask yourself, would you go someplace that didn't have a home for you?
I wouldn't go to the Middle Ages either, so, that's also another thing.
Besides, these people don't have a choice.
But you'd rather go to
they're already there.
I'd go get in one of Wolf's U-boats before I went back to the Middle.
I would not do that.
I would not either.
Oh, boy.
I'd rather hop inside one of those Japanese suicide torpedoes.
What, the Kaiten?
Yeah, one of those.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, you wanted to say negative things. I was trying to come up with something. So why doesn't someone else say something?
What are Tortugas? Tortuga wanted to start talking negative things. I mean, go ahead. Let's hear it, Tortuga. What are your negative things?
God damn.
I really don't. I don't know. I feel like, okay, this is what I would say. The negatives for me is the fact that when I go to like the technology screen, or if I go to, there's some other ones like policies and all that there's several things which say not yet implemented, or, not available in early access. So for me, knowing that those things are to come, but they aren't here yet, and that I'm effectively learning a game that will be different months down the road, that's the early access battle. I mean, that's what this is all about. But that's always... I wish the game was released as is today. This is a very softball way of saying I don't have huge criticisms of the game. I really don't. I think that as is, if it did not develop another day, it would already be a game I would be very happy to play and would continue to play. So I'm not the best person to ask about criticism, because for whatever reason, like, the wavelengths have aligned and this game just hit a home run for me.
I would agree. I have very few. I'm trying to think of criticisms, and like my criticisms are there's quite a few screens that say like early access will be implemented later, sort of thing. I mean, that's all I can really complain about right now. And like, I understand why that's there, right?
I mean, having torpedoed THG's comment, I now want to go back and pretend like it's my own. So I will say that I think that people who can't pick up on the game quickly enough, it may need to be more clear that there's like a tutorial type option. Maybe they should implement tutorials types. I mean, they actually have tutorial messages, but
they kind of do. I mean, but I do think it could be better. I guess that's what I was just trying to get at, was it assumes, before I played it, I read an 18-page document that was sent out with it, right? Like,
you did? Okay,
I did. I read through that. So like I had a sense of what to do. I don't think if I had read that document that the UI in the game would have told me as much what to do. I would have probably figured out the family thing before too long. But even like the happiness meter of the idea that like even once you have everybody in a house, if your happiness is below 50%, which it probably will be if you don't immediately build 5 houses, it probably will be below 50 no matter what, because it'll take you a little while to build enough houses for everybody. Then it goes up because you have if you have 2 types of food. So if you're like hunting and then you've got the bread they give you to start with, it'll slowly go up. But like, I think you could very easily, I think a lot of players will end up in a scenario where they're just sitting a little below 50%. Their population isn't growing. They don't know necessarily what to do because the game doesn't really tell you what to do at that point. They'll think like, all right, everybody has a home. Maybe I even have some surplus homes. Why is no one coming here? Oh, it's a cutoff at 50%. Okay, I guess like that makes sense. But it's just, maybe the pacing is a little bit off for folks who aren't aware of it going in, because the base game plays pretty slow when you're on just the standard speed.
Oh, that's one thing I would say though. The pacing of this game is I play things very slowly, and even I find myself running things on max speed in this game. So I would say that's maybe even a suggestion for people, is if you're having this problem, because the 50% approval, once you have everyone in a house, it still takes, if you run it at the default like 1x speed, it would probably take 10 minutes for people to start coming into your village.
Well, and it's once a month, right? Like, I didn't know that. That wasn't clear to me.
Yeah, I think that might be in one of the tutorial messages, or even if you rest your cursor over the approval. It might have been, there's a help menu. So you can actually look up topics on the help menu. And I think one of them was housing. It's like 0 if it's 25 to 50. They'll actually leave your town if it's below 25. And then 1 family will arrive 50 to 75. And then 2 families will arrive if you're above 75%. But yeah, it was in the help comments, which I'm sure that not a lot of people are going to look through those.
I don't think it's a major issue. If I was to say like what's an area they could improve upon, I actually think the UI UX is really well done, but I do think there could be a little bit more hand-holding if you're going to be populating tutorial messages. Maybe they just need like an actual tutorial where it walks people through like, here, build this. This is why you're doing this. Like maybe that's what they need. I don't know. Again, it's early access. A lot of early access games are way rougher than this is. But if I was to say like one area that could use some work, it would be helping folks who maybe are not city builder aficionados who want to play this, like have an actual standalone tutorial where it walks you through building a house and maybe collecting some food on one of these maps.
It's funny. Have either of you guys played the first option? In the 3 scenarios you can pick from, there's like the left one, which is relaxing, the middle one, which has the combat and the bandits, and then there's the right one, which I didn't even read.
I'm assuming that's the hardest. Like the left one is basic.
I've been playing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the left one is basically like sandbox mode. It sounds like there's no bandits or very few, and you can play as long as you want. Once you get to large town, it's like just keep playing if you want. The second one is the one where you've got to take those 2 provinces from the neighboring baron, and the third one, to me it makes it sound like it's a land overrun by bandits. So I'm assuming the third one is the most difficult option, but I don't know if that's true.
The reason why I was asking that is just because if you played the original one, the demo actually had a tutorial type setup with objectives, so it really held your hand a lot more. And I wonder if that is still in place in the relaxing mode one, because I was actually surprised to see that they removed that. I think it was very good, and it might be helpful if they added that back.
So I've only played the rightmost one where it's like overrun by bandits, and it doesn't really seem to be that bad, and there aren't too many bandits at all. I think it may be the easiest one because it removes all of the other mechanics of like Lord's Favor and stuff, it seems.
That stuff isn't even implemented yet.
Oh, okay.
It probably is the hardest one. So just good on you that you're playing on the hardest one, having an easy time. The reason why the middle one might be a little easier is because although there are a few, I think it's only like one bandit camp at a time. The person you're eventually supposed to take on, the end game, as THG was explaining earlier, that person will actually go and stamp out the bandits for you if you let them. Which can also be a bad thing. You don't want them to go stamp out bandits because then you don't get all the 200 money from the bandit camp. But if you were having a hard time and you didn't have an army, they will eventually go do that for you too.
Have either of you tried anything with the diplomacy? Because there's supposed to be diplomacy with that, like, neighboring baron and then also the bandit.
Your options for talking to the baron or to the bandits is like, oh, hey, hello, greetings. And the other option is, you filthy scumbags the effect of these is not surprisingly nothing for the first one and negative 10 relations for the second one. They attack you either way. It's completely unfinished. It's not even implemented, I would say.
So it's like total war diplomacy.
It's not even that. It's non-existent. It's a shell for what will hopefully be built later. Because even when you want to talk to the baron, the only option you can say is, oh, you're not the rightful person here. And I just chose not to say anything because I didn't want to get on his bad side right away. I'd like to stab people in the back. I don't want them watching.
Yeah.
So if you feel a knife go in your back and you don't know where it's from, Tortuga's behind you.
I would blame Wolf first.
Would you?
I would.
Experience?
Yeah. ICBM.
ICBM.
Never forget.
Burned into my memory.
We didn't talk about other games we've been playing, but man, I gotta say, this game, Solium Infernum, we gotta play this game together. I think it's the new ICBM.
Wait, before we go to that, real quick, does your population age out and die? Or is it like they're indefinitely young?
I have no idea.
I think they definitely age and die.
They do?
Because, I mean,
you have
to...
a corpse pit, which I haven't needed to use, but I wasn't sure what it was for.
I've had to use it after battles.
That's after bandits, though, right? I think your own people don't go in the corpse pit.
Oh, really?
Why not?
Do they?
I figured you could upgrade it to like a graveyard and stuff.
Can you? So I don't know. I've never...
Maybe I'm wrong.
I've only lost soldiers. I don't know what even happened to the soldiers I've lost. I've lost soldiers, but I guess we just didn't bring their bodies home.
You know what I would kind of like is I'd like more information about my people. Like, you've got a little magnifying glass where you hover it over it and it'll be like, this is a person. And it won't, but like, what I want is the whole Tropico experience where like I can click on a person, I can see their wants, their needs, I can see their age, all the details about them. It feels like the kind of game, because of the way that you manage your families, it feels like the kind of game that should have that. But it doesn't. So I guess I hope, obviously it's early access. I hope maybe they add that.
Yeah, I can see that being a good feature.
It's actually one of the things I want to bring up. And I would not personally be interested in like the needs, wants, and all that, but at least being able to click on a person, it brings up a little tag. And then they have this nice mechanic where like they have white lines that like arc to like their house or the arc to their workplace. The only way I know how to access it is from like the people menu when you're selecting a building. It'll show you where the different people who work in that building are. But I think it'd be very nice if they added that for people. Like, oh, this is my husband, that's my daughter, this is the house I live in. Because, yeah, it would be nice to be able to, at least to have the opportunity to roleplay more.
Let me build a connection to my people. I am, after all, a benevolent and caring lord.
I do fling pieces at them from the trees.
Tortuga's just the crazy person in the trees. They're all
chaotic.
Like, oh my god, stay away from him. Build me an army. Like, okay, just don't make him angry.
Yeah, well, they should have figured that out after I had them build the 5th corpse pit.
I'm imagining your character is like
number 5 was the one.
I'm imagining.
Why does this guy keep digging just massive holes?
I'm imagining Tortuga's character is like the character in Jumanji.
Robin Williams?
Yeah. Have you seen Jumanji with him in it?
Yeah.
He's got like the crazy beard, like after he's been trapped in there for a long time.
Yeah, okay. Or you can, for more modern reference, you can think of, is it Lost? What's the one with Tom Hanks?
Oh, yeah, Castaway.
Castaway thing.
That's still like 20 years old, isn't it?
Is it even newer? I hope it is.
I mean, we're both.
For a modern reference, what about Gilligan's Island?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Oh man.
Oh my god, we're so old.
But yeah, just like I do. One thing I want is more role playing elements. Like, I mean, we're talking about like our character in this game. It's like that's I don't know. More stuff like that would be
like
cool.
when you go third person as your Baron, I want to be able to like walk up to people and have a conversation with them, like hit them with a wet fish. I want to go into battle with my soldiers.
Okay, maybe not like that.
Action RPG. Yeah, I'm actually kidding. I would not.
That's
want
more
that.
like a Mountain Blade-esque, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, no, for sure. I like just more like, oh, my lord. I don't know. He's really bad with money or whatever, and then you can have gameplay effects that, like he has a gambling addiction or something. You have gameplay effects with that. I don't know. Stuff like that could be cool, like character traits and stuff, because I like that sort of thing. But I understand why a lot of people probably wouldn't want that.
I keep going back to Tropico, but that has that as well, where like when you set your character up, you've got like different traits. You can be like a megalomaniac or other things.
Yeah.
It does have that, yeah. You had like a certain number of points you get to pick, right?
Yeah.
Like some traits were better and they would cost more points. You could pair it with like a worse trait, stuff like that.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, no, that's at least that's how the first one worked. I don't remember if they still do that. Because in that game originally, it was like you're basically creating your own Fidel Castro, effectively. Like that's the way they marketed the game. But I also liked how you could just pick random people off the street and execute them. Like, where's the torture chambers? Where's the dungeon? Where's the, this is the Middle Ages. Let me burn the heretic at the stake.
Yeah, and like crime could be something that's added.
There is
as
crime,
well.
apparently. Like there's if your public order drops below a certain percentage, people will become bandits and they'll like leave your town.
Oh well, I didn't know that actually.
So,
He didn't know that because his
there you
town
go.
is so perfect. Nobody does that. in
My
Wolf's town.
public order has never been below like 80. Everybody's incredibly happy. My town's the best town. Yeah, I guess, but
I really don't have anything more to say, by the way, about... I can't think of anything else on Manor Lords.
Yep, that's the game. Good stuff. I'm enjoying it. I did not expect to like it as much as I am.
I'm enjoying it as well. Yeah, I think we were just going to keep this one short. Keep it to an episode specifically about Manor Lord, which is probably by the time this airs will be available on Steam around then. So if you're interested in that, check it out, wishlist it, buy it, whatever. It's over on Steam. It's made by Slavic Magic and published by Hooded Horse.
My favorite.
Tortuga's Mr. Hooded Horse.
My bedfellow.
Okay. Well, anyway. So, until next time, this is the Historical Gamer for Finnish, Wolfpack, and Tortuga. Thanks again.
Hey, I'm one of those people.
Yeah?
Sure are. Good job, buddy.
What is
I'm
going
doing
on
my
here?
best, okay?
I'm trying to wrap this up, you assholes. So
You are
yeah.
one of those people.
Goodbye.
Bye.